Hey there, I'm Sarah. Recently, I saw this gorgeous plant at the Home Depot, and it's a genus I have zero experience with, like none. I love learning about new plants and how to grow them, but I wasn't ready for this genus yet, and I put it back on the rack. One day, though, everything changed. I promise the story has a really happy ending. This is mission propagation. What changed, you might ask? Good question. Knowledge. I watched a Platycerium Care guide on Patreon by Jenna of Gennas Plants, and suddenly I'm grabbing my keys, abandoning all responsibilities, and driving back to rescue the exact plant I left on the rack. She was $21.98 and so worth it. This is my Staghorn Fern, or Platycerium bifercatum if you want to be fancy. It's the most common Staghorn Fern, so it's not exactly rare and very easy to find. They're also non-toxic if you have a pet. The blackening basal fronds was a telltale sign that this plant was being overwatered, as that happens in a lot of the big box stores. So this is a bona fide rescue. Look at these leaves. They're gorgeous. What I learned from Gennas Plants Care Guide is that there are so many ways to mount a staghorn fern. She showed some really unique ideas. I looked up some ideas and I came up with a plan of my own, and I just want to share the experience with you guys because I'm just applying what I learned. So here it goes. I had a shallow dish from an edible arrangement. I knew it would come in handy one day, and clearly I was right. I drilled a hole in the bottom of the dish using a drill, obviously, and the largest hole saw drill bit attachment that I own. And it took a little bit of elbow grease, but I got it done. I also had a plastic mesh hole cover to keep the substrate from falling out of the bowl. And of course, I had to clean up the workstation with a washcloth, and I probably should have used a mat. Oh well. Now, this isn't a steak knife, it's definitely a tool, and I carved grooves into the four sides, and I kept the cuts about 2 inches from the edge. Then I glued the mesh in place to cover the hole, and that way I can water my plant from the bottom. Next, I had to get the substrate ready, and I used a higher grade orchid moss so it didn't have too many sticks, and I had to hydrate the moss, and I broke it up a little bit, and then I started lining the bowl. I also removed excess water and moisture from the moss before I added it to the bowl, and I just continued to line the bowl with a thin layer of moss, and it was kind of like I was making a moss pie crust to make a platycerium pie. Then I removed the plant from the hanging basket and removed excess soil, and I tried really hard not to disturb the roots too much, but I wanted to take off some of the bulk of the soil. And it wasn't too difficult. I ended up plopping the plant on the moss pole pie crust, and then it got really repetitive once I tied off the fishing line, which I found at Walmart. And it was all about weaving and spinning and adding moss and repeat until the root ball was covered in moss and anchored to the bowl really well. I feel like the process took me about 30 minutes, going over and under the bowl with the fishing line, and the grooves caught the line really well, and it worked out good. I thrifted a milk glass compote to set the bowl on, and well, voila. Can we just take a moment? It's beautiful, and I love it. I love the way it turned out. The next day, I couldn't help but just admire her. She's so beautiful. I put in so much labor, and she deserved her very own Simba moment. And she was going to get it. Baby veitchii, it's your turn for a glow up. The steps I took were just a little bit different for this smaller plant. I used a sturdy plastic lid from a takeout container. I heated up some metal tweezers and melted grooves into the edges of the lid, and that way it would hold the fishing line. And then the holes in the center, used them to cut out a hole to fit the plastic mesh hole cover. And I glued it on there, and that will keep the substrate in, and then I can water the plant from the back. And removed a little bit of the excess soil, and I used the tweezers to kind of tease the roots, but I tried not to mess with the roots too much. I probably removed about half of the soil, and then I made a Platycerium moss pie crust for my Platycerium pie. I plopped the plants on to the dish, and we were ready to start adding the fishing line. And it was, again, just repetitive weaving, spinning, adding moss, and just basically repeat until the root ball was completely covered in moss and anchored to the lid. And I feel like this probably took me about 30 minutes as well. I was searching for some more information about the Platycerium veitchii, and the spruce.com said that this is a smaller, slower growing staghorn fern, but it's more sun tolerant. And it said something interesting. It said casual growers can sometimes succeed at growing this plant. And I was just like, uh-oh. I'm definitely a newbie grower. I don't know what I'm doing, but there was plenty of these guys at Home Depot, so if I lose this one, fingers crossed I don't, I will just go get another one. Or maybe I should just go get a backup. I don't know. But look, I think it turned out pretty great. And this baby is mounted, and now I gotta find the perfect place for it to live in my home. Let me correct that. I have the privilege of finding the perfect place for this little baby in my home. Thank you for joining me on this journey of learning a little bit more about staghorns. And if you want some more knowledge, Dave of Sober Plant Guy has a stunning staghorn fern. It's 4 foot by 4 foot, and he has 2 very popular videos on his channel that are worth checking out. Thank you for watching, and enjoy all the planty things, y'all. Bye.